time we were getting ready to go record at the record plant, we were playing clubs like the Whiskey or the Starwood. So we were getting experience playing to live audiences, as well as learning to write and getting ready to go in the studio. We ended up going in the studio with Artie King, and Richard was I think he was in Europe on tour at the time. And at that time, he said, why don't you just move in with Shoshana and I? And he let me stay in their house. He had rented a house a bit north of Hollywood, a place called Channel Islands, Hollywood by the Sea, I think it was called back then. So we lived in this beach house, beautiful beach house right on the beach. And we would go into Hollywood and either we'd be playing or go into the nightlife. And the time at the record plant, we spent a whole week doing 4 songs. Here we are recording and getting ready to see if we can get our first single released, get some radio time, and go off on the road. At the same time, Richard decides he's going to leave Deep Purple. And they did their first album, just like we talked about Stormbringer. Well, they recorded their first album in Musicland Studios in Munich. Now, this is important because I live now in Munich, and I've been here now for almost 40 years. My wife knew Richie from the nightclub scene and the rock and roll scene in the 70s. And her and Richard were actually friends. So she knew Richard well. She was at some of those very recording sessions that Richie was doing the basics on Stormbringer, that he eventually also then mixed in the record plant in LA. It's real funny because my wife and I had the same circle of friends, but we didn't know each other back then. She had never been to America. I had never been to Germany. And the chances of us meeting are something that I'll tell you about later because it's slim to none. Who would have ever thought we two would get together? But we had the same circle of friends. When we finished the recordings at the record plant, as we were trying to get a record deal, we took off and we went on the road. We had a chance to do a number of concerts, and we decided we would go all the way back home to New England. Michael, our piano player, his uncle owned a house in New Hampshire, and he was going to let us stay a month in that house for free. So we decided we'd drive all the way back to New Hampshire. Now, you got to understand, when I say we're not talking 3 or 4 people. We were 11 people in the whole road crew. We had roadies, we had a sound technician, we had our own PA system. I mean, we were a road show ready to go. And we had two big school buses that we had painted black. And on the front and the back of each bus, we had big silver pentagrams. We wanted everybody to know Dark Star is in town. And we had this mystique of being dark and mysterious. We drove, I think we had 3 cars and 2 big buses, 11 people across the country. We spent a month writing songs, getting ready, putting a whole show together so that when we would do a concert, we were ready to go. And we had the opportunity to play a few shows while we were there. When Richard would come back and visit, we go into a nightclub. That was a fun thing we used to like to do. If Richard was in town, we'd go to a nightclub and just say, hey, where's the owner? Find the owner or the manager and say, how would you like to say that Ritchie Blackmore from Deep Purple played in your club? Well, every nightclub manager or owner, they were thrilled. We said, well, here's the deal. You let us play, we'll play an hour set, and then you let us drink all night for free. If that's okay with you, you can tell everybody Richie's here. And night after night, when we would not have nothing to do, if we didn't have a concert or nothing was going on, we go and perform live with Richie. And it was the greatest fun. We do blues, we do all sorts of music. Sometimes I'd play guitar, he played bass. Sometimes I'd play bass, he played guitar. And we just partied and have a great time. It was a great experience. And I remember we were doing a concert in Ohio. We thought we would work our way from the East Coast and slowly go back and do shows all the way to the West Coast. And we got a phone call. Another person comes into the story. His name is Bruce Brown. As far as I know, Bruce is still in the business today. And Bruce was young and he wanted to produce bands. He knew our bass player, Michael Foraker, at the time. And he called Michael up and said, I think I got a deal for your band. I heard some of your demos that you did at the record plant. You need to get back to California right away. So we all pack up everything. We finished that show in Ohio and we drove straight through to LA. We get to LA and the story was a little different. He actually convinced Mike to leave the band. And here we are now. We've traveled all the way across the country and our bass player leaves. He's going to go do a solo project instead of working with us. And we decided, wait a minute, we're going to find another bass player.